Hey there, and welcome to Temporary Locals.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Megan. This week, we're taking you to the coast of South Carolina to Hunting Island State Park. But before we get into that, for those who don't know, Jared and I are a travel loving couple who somehow always end up feeling like locals wherever we go. From small towns to some of the world's most iconic wonders, we share our stories, hidden gems, and occasional history or true crime that shape the places that we've actually been. So if you're into travel, storytelling, and a little bit of mystery, then you're in the right place, and we would love it if you would subscribe and join us for the ride. And as always, we appreciate any other free methods of support, such as a like, comment, or sharing the episode. And before we get into the episode, we do have a couple current events we'd like to chat through, and they kind of tie in together. So,
Yes, ma'am. So a few weeks ago, we decided that we were going to have a bit of an undertaking and we were going to plan, train, and eventually do the Palmetto Trail here in the state of South Carolina. And we'll get into a little bit of what that means. We're essentially going to do a through hike from the Midlands down to the coast. And yeah, I think that'll be really fun, really exciting. And that kind of came about because we were watching a lot of content of other people's from doing through hikes from different states. We watched somebody do the Colorado Trail. We've obviously known about the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Trail and all these trails all over the country. And so we decided to do, for our first like true through hike, we decided to start here in South Carolina and do the Palmetto Trail.
yeah, and for those who don't know, maybe not familiar with the word through hike, because it took a minute for me. I was like, what does that mean? And even I've said it to a few people, and they're like, what is a through hike? um,
Mm-hmm.
it's basically like backpacking. So you bring everything with you that you're gonna use on your hike, and you'll hike, over the course of, a few days to a few weeks. So what kind of, you know, lit my fire for it was there's this girl that I follow on Instagram and YouTube. Her name is Crosby Melendi, and it's her Instagram is Crosby Grace Travels. I think that's all of her social media, but she just recently did a really awesome documentary on their trip to the Colorado Trail. So they did like just under 500 miles, and it was like her and her cousins, and like just I was so inspired by the documentary and that like challenge. It's just really interesting. So I think we got like a little obsessed with it, and just so happened like the next day we saw an ad on Facebook that was like the Palmetto Trail, which they are still building. Um, is like sections of it are complete. So we want to do a portion of the trail, not the full trail, because it's not completely done right now. It's when it's finished, it'll be 500 miles, and it'll go from the mountains in Oconee County through like I guess that's the Piedmont of South Carolina, down through the coast to Charleston County. So we're gonna start in the Midlands in Columbia. So go from Columbia to Charleston, and that should be about 160 miles. I think when we mapped it out, when we were gonna do like 20 miles a day, it was gonna take us like a little bit over 8 days.
Yeah, I think we're trying to shoot for 20 miles a day. Anybody that kind of knows us knows that we're very into the outdoors, avid hikers. But as far as through hiking goes, it's kind of another level. And I think it's something we want to do to kind of push ourselves and see that we can do it before undertaking any bigger hikes, any bigger through hikes. I've always been fascinated with the Appalachian Trail. I have friends and I know people that have done it. And even when we were in the Blue Ridge earlier in the summer, we were hiking in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We met those through hikers that were doing the Appalachian Trail. So it's something that we've always been kind of interested in, and we're gonna do part of it. So,
and we like camping, so I
right.
mean, yeah, that'll be interesting. Another aspect that I didn't even realize until we started looking into it is that like a lot of the ultralight gear is really expensive. So I wonder if we should like challenge ourselves on like a budget of like, oh, all our through hiking gear under $500 or something like that.
Yeah. I think it's like anything where there's people that spend ridiculous amounts of money to do something and it's not necessarily needed Um, you know,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. I mean, every thing that you could possibly get into, there's always going to be like
The high-end
the
gear
high
or the
end,
brand name gear.
super fancy stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, with outdoor gear, it's kind of, I guess, valid because you get what you pay for, and you want good gear for when you're out in the mountains and stuff. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because we have a lot of hiking gear. We have all the camping gear that you can imagine. But to do something like this, you do want lighter stuff. You want the ultralight stuff. I mean, we're not going to be doing the Palmetto Trail with our big tent on our back or anything. So we're gonna have to get some gear and do a lot of planning. And like I said, we're gonna do some training.
Yeah. We're going to get some weighted vests and go walk on the treadmill, Planet Fitness.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, so that like through hike or just hiking in general kind of goes into the next current event that we wanted to talk about. And normally we don't talk about normally our podcast is more of like a distraction from what's going on in like the mainstream or what have you. So this next story is it'll probably make you mad. It's kind of sad, but I think it's relevant, especially talking about just like preparing for the outdoors and things like that. So this is a story out of Utah recently in 2025. There was a man named Micah Smith who originally in October of 25 was like commended online for saving his three children's lives after they were trapped in a winter storm and then subsequently rescued after 24 hours while hiking in Big Cottonwood Canyon. But as of November 2025, he has since been arrested and charged with aggravated child abuse and child torture. So if you're wondering, like, if you haven't seen this story, which I would be kind of surprised because I think it's kind of been big out there. So Smith and his three children, who are an 8-year-old daughter and then a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old son. So man and his three young children.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them under 5, headed out around 9 a.m. to hike a trail that's known for being challenging and is not recommended for children or beginners. And Smith said that they summited around 6 p.m. So they left their house around 9 a.m., summited around 6 p.m. And around this time, the charging documents say that the weather turned from mist, fog, rain, and hail. ABC4 says that he told officers that by 8 p.m., they had only descended 600 feet before he decided that it was necessary to find shelter. And he attempted to fashion a protective screen using like a rock and like sticks to try to keep the children warm. It's also said sometime in this time that the youngest child, the 2-year-old, fell, hit his head, and became dazed. And the rescuers that found them the next day, when they discovered them, they said the 4-year-old was lying on top of the 2-year-old. Both of them were unconscious and not breathing.
Wow.
A search of Smith's phone revealed multiple photos and videos taken during the day. And in one video, his daughter can be heard talking about the clouds moving in and asking, "Are we going to freeze to death, Daddy?" Which is like a lot of the news headlines that I've seen of like taking that specific line, which I think is really powerful. I think a lot of the places that we were looking up, reading about, like the 8-year-old daughter was multiple times asking, "Can we go back? Like, we don't want to keep going." And I've seen this quote that he said, like, "This is the experience of a lifetime. We're not going to turn back."
Mm-hmm.
At one point, officials said that Smith even taught his 8-year-old daughter how to perform CPR before leaving the children on the mountain and attempting to head down alone. First responders later performed 25 minutes of CPR on the 4-year-old during the rescue, and the 4-year-old later suffered a stroke and required part of his skull to be removed after arriving at the hospital with a body temperature of just around 63 degrees. And I found a source that said one child, I'm assuming it's the 4-year-old, who spent over a week on a heart and lung bypass machine, has been taken off sedation and is now speaking in full sentences. And that was a statement released on November 10th from the Smith family. So everyone made it out and they're all alive and seems that they're doing fine now. But it seems like it was touch and go there. Like he had to resuscitate the youngest children like multiple times and then they would breathe on their own, but they were still unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it doesn't sound like they planned well for this. Like they had the right kind of gear or clothing.
yeah. Yep. And that's what a lot of the sources were saying too, is like, and you see this with hikers that end up getting in trouble is you don't bring enough like layers to prepare for like maybe you're down at the base and the weather feels fine.
Right.
And then you go hike up to the summit where there's a dramatic increase in the
elevation. Yeah.
Yeah. Elevation and temperature that comes with that. So a lot of people get hypothermia just from not bringing layers, not being prepared for the temperature at, the summit.
Right. Well, and what makes this story more tragic and infuriating in a lot of ways is you hear these stories of hikers getting lost in the woods or, in situations like this all the time. This happens all the time, but the difference is that this guy took his small children out and was irresponsible in that way. I mean, I've been the kind of guy to kind of throw caution to the wind, and I've been in some sketchy situations in the outdoors and stuff myself, but that all kind of changes when you have children. And if you're going to do something like that, that's not something you take your children on.
And especially alone.
Right.
It'd be one thing if there were two adults there to kind of help, but I think for most of it, like he had to carry the 2-year-old, so I don't even know what's enjoyable about that at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like there was a lot of bad judgment calls. I don't know if the family or his wife kind of like cautioned him and was like, I don't think this is a good idea, and he did it anyways. I'm not sure. I did find some sources that mentioned there had been like some domestic violence issues prior to that incident, and there was like some questionable incidences where he was like talking to police and kind of saying some weird stuff, not saying he was going to threaten his own life, but just saying weird stuff like, oh, I want, like, he's brought an axe or something and was like, I want to go find a mountain to climb or something just weird like that.
Well, that part's not weird. That's total man shit.
Yeah, in the context though, it was like
I kind of get the feeling, and I'm sure other people have this thought reading the story too, is like, was he planning on them not coming back? The kids or the kids and himself not returning?
Yeah, I did read some perspectives that basically shared that same sentiment of like, I think he planned to, I don't think that, well, yeah, I do think that he planned to come back alone. Mm-hmm. The officer, like when he was being rescued, when they were being rescued, like a lot of the first responders were saying like he was just acting kind of weird and like he wasn't really concerned about the kid's safety. So it's either an intent where he was like, hey, I'm gonna go out here for whatever reason and try to come back alone, or there's just something off where he doesn't realize the danger he put his family in.
Or maybe he purposely wanted to make it look like he was a hero in the situation, like he kept them alive even though they were stranded out there. He performed CPR on them, like he wanted it to look like a survival story where he was commended for being like heroic.
Yeah, that's way. Kind of like an aspect of like Munchausen, like you put kids in danger or other people. It doesn't have to be kids, but you put people in danger or harm's way so that you can kind of come in and save them.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, we just thought it was kind of an extreme to share of like something current that just happened that's kind of related to one of our interests, which is like hiking. And they weren't through hiking. They were just going on like a day hike, but a long hike that you would definitely want to prepare for. So also circling back to the Palmetto Trail, they have a website that like talks about all of the work being done and any like volunteer work and stuff like that. I forgot to mention there's 380 miles of the Palmetto Trail complete out of the 500 total as of now. And their website has like a hiking 101 page that has lots of like tips and recommended like training and things like that to prepare you for the trail. So we're definitely going to be utilizing that.
Yep. So
Alrighty.
we'll get into the main bulk of the episode, and this week's episode is going to be on Hunting Island. And Hunting Island's a place that I've been to many times, and you and I have been there many times. We've camped there multiple times. Um, it's a really special place. It's one of the more undeveloped islands down on the coast here. There's really nothing there other than a campground, so it's a really cool place to go. There's no hotels. There's not even a restaurant.
Yeah,
Um,
once you get like towards the state park, it's pretty much all just like natural land.
right.
But before we get into that, there's a neighboring island to Hunting Island called Morgan Island, or you might know it as Monkey Island.
Yep.
So Jared actually brought this island to my attention. So we looked up some more details about it. The island has been uninhabited because its location and distance from the mainland. And there was a monkey colony now located on Morgan Island, but was previously located at the Caribbean Primate Research Center in, I think it's La Parguera, Puerto Rico. We'll
Hmm.
just say it's in Puerto Rico. And according to the CDC, there were incidents of the free-ranging monkeys that were, they were escaping, carrying viral herpes B infections, and it led to outbreaks in the local population in Puerto Rico. So the country being alarmed by this, and I don't know how this happened, but South Carolina like stepped in and was like, hey, we've got this uninhabited island over here. We can just put all your monkeys here. So between 1979 and 1980, there were over 1,400 animals relocated to Morgan Island. That island is owned by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, and the monkeys that live there now are owned by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and it's used for public health research. I didn't know that there was a National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. I thought that would have been part of like the CDC, but
Hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a and not that long ago there was actually monkeys that escaped. Um,
Yemisi, South
yeah, in,
Carolina.
in Yamasee, that's
Yeah.
down in that kind of general direction also. And we've seen stories of that happening. I mean, they do research on different infectious diseases and stuff on these animals, and then they get loose, and it's like straight out of a movie, like Outbreak.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morgan Island is an entire island that is just full of these rhesus monkeys, and it's right off the coast. It kind of borders St. Helena, and I've actually kayaked to it and stood on the shore. You're not allowed to go on the island. They do boat tours, I believe, around the island. So they won't actually let you step on the island, but they'll take you around the island and you can try to like photograph the monkeys and stuff and look at them. But it's a big no-no to go there. It's definitely off limits to the public. It's very dangerous. These monkeys carry who knows what. I mean, they say like, herpes and different infectious diseases like that and viruses, but you don't, I mean, who knows what they're doing out there with them. So it's it's like something straight out of a movie.
Yeah. I wonder if you can get in trouble for saying that you stepped on the island.
Probably, yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, I allegedly went there. So but yeah, it's just a lot of people don't even know that exists down here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had no idea before you mentioned it to me.
mhm.
Um it's just interesting. I was like, when you told me that, I actually remember being like, no way, there's not an island with like diseased monkeys on it in South Carolina. That's crazy. And
Mhm.
then we looked it up and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. I guess they just don't swim.
Yeah, a lot of these barrier islands down here have like a lot of interesting facts that are kind of obscure that people don't really know about. Um,
Yeah.
I know eventually we're going to do an episode on like Savannah and Tybee, but Tybee Island's another one where it was a training area for like the United States Air Force, and there's actually a missing nuclear bomb somewhere buried on the island that they have yet to recover. And so somewhere on Tybee Island, there's a bomb hidden, buried in the ground, and people walk around that, and that is a developed island down here. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That is wild.
right.
So many like conspiracy paths you could go down with that. Because what if it was an accidental?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, a lot of cool history around here, around these parts.
yeah. Around these here parts down here,
Down yonder.
down yonder.
Anyways, back to Hunting Island. So the state park has about 5,000 acres of the low country of South Carolina, and that includes beach, marsh, and maritime forest. And speaking of the maritime forest, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we touched on was like certain filming for like TV and movies that has happened at Hunting Island. And there's several. One, probably the most familiar nowadays that's like more relevant would be the Outer Banks TV show on Netflix. It's, kids that live in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, but actually the most of the filming happens in South Carolina. And I think most of the filming is in Charleston,
Hmm.
but they do film, they have filmed a few scenes in, I think at least the first season, if not all of them, at the Boneyard Beach. So the Hunting Island, if you kind of walk along the beach further past like where the nature center is, there's a Boneyard Beach, and they filmed a scene where the characters from that show, John B. and Topper, are they get into like a drunken brawl, and I think it says episode 1, but I'm not sure which season. I don't remember.
I think that's season 1. That's when they have the big party at the Boneyard Beach.
Yeah.
But yeah, they filmed that at Hunting Island.
And then they also visit the lighthouse, the Hunting Island lighthouse. In the show, they call it the Redfield Lighthouse, and that's where they go to find something about like John B.'s dad or
Mhm.
like the compass or something
Yep.
like that. But yeah, so it's pretty cool seeing like the scenes in the show. And I think we mentioned it. They've also filmed at the Charleston, the Folly Beach, Morris Island Lighthouse
Yep.
too.
Hmm.
So they kind of use those a little interchangeably in the show, even though the lighthouses don't even look alike.
No, that lighthouse was a different lighthouse. I believe they were. That was when Rafe actually went out to it, because you can't walk out to
Yeah.
the Morris Island Lighthouse. It's on its own island.
Yep.
And so they go out on it. They go out to it on a jet ski.
Yeah, yeah.
The Hunting Island Lighthouse, they were like, I think they were playing soccer or something in the scene right in front of it. Because that lighthouse you can't actually walk right up to.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and so just talking about like the maritime forest too, there's two other movies that use this state park to film scenes like you're in Vietnam. So I guess first one would be Forrest Gump in 1993. Most of the Vietnam War scenes from Forrest Gump are filmed on Hunting Island. And then same thing for the 2000 movie Rules of Engagement. Again, the Vietnam scenes were filmed on Hunting Island. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah, I think specifically in Forrest Gump, it's the scene where he's running into the jungle and carrying out all his like platoon guys that are getting injured and stuff. When he gets Lieutenant Dan and he runs him to safety, and he keeps going back in the jungle and getting different guys. That scene was filmed on Hunting Island. And so it's kind of cool that they filmed that right here as a kind of a stand-in for the Vietnam jungle.
yeah, it's really just goes to show how like remote this state park is. I mean, when you get into the jungle, it really is like it's not a jungle, but it feels like,
Yeah, well, it's considered subtropical. It's a subtropical forest, so it is tropical. It is a jungle. And you feel that when you're walking around. You feel like you're in the jungle. It's a lot of naturally growing palms. There's a lot of places in South Carolina where all the palm trees you're seeing are all planted and brought from other places. But at Hunting Island, it's like they grow naturally down there on the coast, and so it's a really cool place to especially hike. I really enjoy hiking there.
yeah. Yeah, we had a really good time hiking. You can, walk along the beach. It's a good place to go for the sunrise. Also finding shark's teeth and sand dollars. I've never been one to like look for shark's teeth because I feel like I can't ever find them.
Well, you're not going to find them if you don't look.
Yeah, but Harper was just like, so we actually found a sand dollar, which I'm pretty sure was somebody else's find, and they dropped it in the sand, and we were like stumbled upon it. So it wasn't like a true find, but it was a fully intact sand dollar. And when she went to go show you, she showed it to you, and then you walked away, and then she just looked down and saw like a pretty good sized shark's tooth. It was like half an inch long.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like that's normally how it works with shark's teeth, at least, is because you see people out early in the morning after the tide and they'll have like headlamps on or whatever, or at night, and they'll be looking for shark's teeth. And like people go out and they're really serious about it, like shark's teeth hunters. And I've done that and I never find anything. But the only time I've ever actually found a shark's tooth is like just randomly looking down.
yeah, when
And
you're not
seeing
even
it.
like trying to look for one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another cool part of the park, there's a marsh boardwalk. So it's on like the opposite side from the beach. And it's a good place to go for sunset because like, you know, the terrain is pretty low. Like you're just looking out over like the marsh grass, and then the sun, you know, there's a lower, I guess, horizon to see more of like the sunset. We didn't actually do the marsh boardwalk last time, but we did the first time we went. We did watch the sunset from there, and it was gorgeous. But I also just like watching the sunset from the beach, even though the trees, you know, the sunset's kind of behind the trees because you know it sets in the west, but it's still beautiful colors over the beach.
Yeah. I really like the sunrise from the campground itself because Hunting Island has the distinction of being the only real place in South Carolina I'm aware of that you can basically camp directly on the beach. I mean, the campground, a lot of the camping spots are essentially on the beach. And so I enjoy waking up early in the morning, unzipping the tent, stepping out just to the ocean and the palm trees and the sunrise. It's some of my favorite sunrises I've ever seen or photographed were right there at the campground on Hunting Island. I said
Yeah.
campground. Crab ground.
Yeah, the campground it's gorgeous. It is kind of competitive to get spots there, which I mean we book them months in advance, and you definitely want to do that because, but I don't know that there's a single campsite there that's like I wouldn't choose. You know,
Yeah.
some are definitely better than others, but as far as like you know closeness to the bathrooms or you know closeness to the beach, it's not a huge campground, so even if you're kind of tucked away in the back, it's not a horrible walk to get out, you know, past the dunes and on the beach.
Yeah, some of the campground spots, some of the campsites are more in the open with like on the beach, and then some in the back you're more surrounded by forest, but either way they're really cool sites. And I've stayed at both.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, we sure do love camping there. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but before we get there, I want to share about the nature center at Hunting Island State Park, and also kind of shout out like the park websites. Just the state park websites in general for South Carolina are just really they have a really good like user experience. Like visually the design is good, but a lot of like good information. They usually have a story about like the main like park ranger there, and then like a little blurb about like them and how they got into you know being a park ranger and their experience and stuff like that. And then they just have like stats on the park. So they do this section that's like by the numbers, and it'll be like you know like the one for Hunting Island, it's like 5,000 acres of Lowcountry South Carolina, and then like I think it's like 5 miles of beaches. They just do like a quick like snapshot like by the numbers of like what you can, just a quick overview, and then they go into more detail. But the nature center, they have there just like creatures inside, so like live creatures. Like there's a few alligators,
little babies, they're so cute.
Yeah, they are really
Little
cute
baby alligators.
And they've got turtles. Last time we went there, they had little jellyfish in that one corner. They also have a lot of like taxidermy stuff, like owls and
You have skulls,
yeah, and bones and
fossils,
yeah, fossils, and so a lot
shark's
of
teeth. They have a whole shark's teeth display there,
yeah,
with megalodon teeth and stuff. And they have a loggerhead sea turtle skull there that is massive. You
yeah,
don't realize how big those turtles are until you see the skull of one.
yeah,
It looks like a dog. Looks like the head of a dog.
yeah, like a
They're,
big pit bull.
yeah, yeah.
But they also have snakes there, and they have regularly scheduled programs like throughout the week. But from our first time going, I remember looking up and I saw there's a program called Feeding Frenzy. And if you're not familiar, I went through like a brief of session with snakes where I just started learning about like the snakes in our area and like how to identify them and like venomous versus non-venomous and things like that. So I just have an interest in snakes. And so the Feeding Frenzy program is a program where you can come to the nature center on Saturdays, and I think it's 12:30 or 1 p.m., something like that. You can look it up on their website. They've got the schedule posted there. Um, but you can watch them feed the snakes that they have on site there. So we did that both times that we went, and it was like not a highlight, but it was a pretty big portion for me that I was like, I really like doing it, even though when you're actually kind of watching it, it feels kind of like mundane. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just think it's cool. And they talk about the the snakes and stuff like that. And there's usually a lot of kids there.
Yeah.
So I feel ridiculous. But yeah, they provide a lot of information about like each snake, and they feed them in like a certain order, and you get to see them eat the snakes eat the mice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just pretty cool. So
Not live mice. They put dead mice in there, and they try to coax them into striking so that it's more exciting for the people viewing. But yeah, we've done it twice. And the first time your mom went with, but your mom is like has a real aversion to snakes. She hates snakes, which is interesting because you love snakes. But
yeah,
I remember she kind of like stuck her head into the room and kind of saw like what was going on and saw the snake and then like freaked out and ran away.
yeah. She did stand kind of at the edge, but they talked about both times we were there. So they feed the king snake last, and they say that they do this because the tongs that they use to pick up the mice and kind of like tap and bring the snakes out. So they'll feed like the first 4 or 5 snakes, and they say that the tongs will then smell like other snakes, which king snakes, if you don't know, are notorious for they'll eat other snakes. So they say like if you don't like snakes, then you want a king snake around because it'll keep away the other snakes, including venomous snakes. They've adapted over time to be resistant. I don't know if that's the right word, but to like the venom of other snakes. So they say that the tongs smell like other snakes as well, and it's like more exciting for the king snakes.
More intriguing, yeah.
But they said the king snake is the one that has escaped before during a feeding. So they have these big long, it's like floor to ceiling enclosure, and the doors are floor to ceiling too. So they have to kind of slide it back, and it's like half of the tank. It's not really a tank enclosure. But yeah, it's just a pretty cool experience. And they talk to you about like how snakes eat and stuff. And they do kind of bust a couple myths about like the triangular shaped head doesn't necessarily mean that it's a venomous snake. And then that snakes can't actually unhinge their jaws. Their jaws are just flexible and separated into sections. And
their whole skull is different pieces like a puzzle, and they can actually like maneuver it a specific way so that they can open their jaws very wide.
Yeah, and allow prey to get back there. And then their teeth kind of angle backwards, and each, the left and the right side they're not separated, but they can move independently. And like, so the left side will kind of hook forward, and then they'll push it back, and they call it walking. It's just, it's really interesting to watch. Yeah, and they also just provide good information about snakes in the area too, and they quiz you on the the venomous snakes. So South Carolina has 6 venomous snakes. And because I had that interest, I was like, a lot of people can name like the copperhead and the cottonmouth, even the coral snake, but a lot of people forget the rattlesnakes in South Carolina. So South Carolina has 3, the diamondback rattlesnake, the pygmy rattlesnake, or the canebrake rattlesnake, which is also called the timber rattlesnake. So a lot of these are found in like other areas of the US. There's just like different subspecies. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but different variations like eastern diamondback and things like that. Yeah, all just really cool stuff. And I feel like a genius when I go there because they're like trying to
stump people, and you know
and I'm
the
like,
answers.
oh, I know.
Well,
I did try to give the kids, like, I didn't jump in last time. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna hold back a little bit.
Yeah. Right.
And then jump in. But oh my gosh, what was the one that we were laughing at? Because she said, rat snakes are arboreal. What does that mean? And somebody was like, they eat plants. And she's like, no.
That's herbivore, yeah.
They eat meat. Nope.
That's carnivore.
And then I waited a little while and I was like, they climb trees.
Yeah. But some of the information's really good. Some of it we were kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
What did they say? Like alligators don't poop
Yeah,
or
she
something
said
like
alligators don't poop. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. And I knew it wasn't true, but I Googled it anyway just to make sure. Because I was like, I know alligators poop. I've seen alligator poop. I've seen alligators poop.
Make an alligator pooping calendar.
Yeah.
Like the dog poop.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, enough about poop. By the nature center is also, they have a pier that you can walk out on. You can fish from the pier too. We haven't done that. But you can see, there's lots of birds out there that you can watch. We've seen raccoons running around out there. I've never seen a wild alligator out there, but based on like the website and stuff, you can see them in that area. And then we saw dolphins last time we were there.
Yep.
We saw like a whole pod of them like jumping around and playing.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Yeah, anytime you see dolphins in the wild, I mean, you can go to a lot of beaches and you'll see them out in the ocean, but especially seeing them off of the boardwalk like that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and there's like a photo op moment where they have like they're just like giant boots that you can stand in, so they're like way oversized. They look like rain boots, but they're like way oversized and they're painted with the lighthouse, and like there's a fisherman on it. Really pretty art, but it's a cool photo op too. You can like stand in them like you're wearing the boots.
Yeah. So we'll get into some of the camping that we did at Honey Island and some of the adventures we had.
Yeah. A little bit about the campsites. There are 102 standard campsites, and all of them have the like 50 amp power. And they are highly coveted year round, like we said. And then there's also 25 rustic tent sites, and the rustic sites are actually the ones that are like closest to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a campground store when you get there. And they're open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. They sell firewood. They sell all kinds of knickknacks, but also like you can get ice and other like condiments and things like that. And it came in handy because they have like hot dog buns, which we needed because we got raided by some raccoons.
Yeah, the raccoon population there is insane. And they're very bold,
Yeah.
I'll say. And like I said, I've camped at Honey Island before, but I've always camped in more of the rustic sites that are more out in the open, like I was talking about, more on the beach. And I don't think the raccoons are as big of an issue there. I think they're more in the wooded areas, more of the wooded campsites, which is where we were staying this time. So I think that's kind of why we had the issues with raccoons that we didn't have before.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because the last tent site that we had was kind of by the camp store, and it's sort of like in a median area, so it wasn't wooded around it. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. We were basically, our most recent campsite, I think we were at campsite 97. It was like tucked away kind of in the woods. So yeah, they were definitely like living in the woods behind us. And I first noticed that we got robbed by them because we got to our campsite, and we had to wait a little bit because my parents were like an hour or two behind us, and we were actually going to use their tent because we had the kids with us, so we needed a bit bigger tent than we have. So they let us use their, I think it's like an 8-person tent, which, you know what? I do want to talk about that because I feel like they advertise those tents of like if you're like sleeping like in their like sardines. It's
Right.
like 8 people can fit on the floor. It's like that's just because we have a 4-person tent, but there's no way that we're gonna sleep all 4 of us in there comfortably.
It's for 4 midgets. You go about, they use the midget metric system.
I don't know, but I got a bone to pick.
Yeah.
It's like that, and then bacon packaging. We gotta fix that. But
yeah, yeah, dude, bacon's the worst. I mean, not bacon. Bacon's amazing, but the packaging that bacon comes in,
terrible.
Yeah, somebody needs to go on Shark Tank with a different version.
Yeah. Anyway, so we get to our campsite and we're kind of having to wait around a little bit, but we're like excited to be there. So we unpack the car of what we can. We get the cooler out, and we didn't do anything to like secure it. I didn't think we had to. But you know, that's a lesson learned for us. We ended up, when we would leave, we would kind of push the cooler underneath the picnic table seat, and it was like the perfect height to kind of keep it shut. But we came back, and I go to like get the burgers out, which I had bought the like pre-made burgers. Had 2 packages of those. So we did have exactly 2 extra patties than everybody that we had in the group. And so I opened the cooler to kind of get that out, and I realized that there's like a hole torn in one of the burger packages, and there's like some of the meat is kind of out in the cooler, like loose, and some of it is in the like crease of where like the cooler closed. And I was like, that's weird. And I thought like you were playing a joke on me, or like dad was playing a joke. Like, I don't know why my first thought was not wildlife, and it was like, oh, someone's playing a joke on me. And I was like, why did somebody just pull out a piece of this, like half of a burger? And then I realized that we got robbed. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, they came in here and they opened our cooler and straight up just stole raw meat.
With their little human hands. They got little fingers and human hands.
Yeah. And we didn't learn from that because we still had like loose stuff kind of sitting on the picnic table. And they came up while we were just sitting there and snatched the whole thing, the whole bag of hot dog buns.
Yeah, we would be sitting around the campfire, and we were probably 10 feet from the picnic table and where our food was. And we'd be sitting there, and we would see out of the corner of our eye. And at one point, they took a whole loaf of bread, too, remember?
No, we did keep our bread. They took the hot dog buns.
Hot dog bun. It was, a type of bread. But yeah, took the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so they were bold, because even after we would get up and like kind of chase them off and stuff, they'd still try to come back and stuff. So
yeah,
it was and there was one that was just super fat.
Oh my gosh,
he was massive,
huge.
I would think a campground would be the best place to be a raccoon or any sort of like scavenging animal. Campgrounds are perfect.
Yeah,
they get so fat there.
Yeah, they don't go hungry for sure.
Yeah.
And with so many to choose from, and I'm sure that campground stays busy year round.
Yep.
with all sorts of different varying levels of like camping experience too. So, you know, not everybody is going to be like thinking about raccoons.
Right. Yeah, in certain places you'd be they'd warn you about bears and things like that, but in a lot of these campgrounds on the coast, you have smaller mammals like raccoons and things like that. I've talked about the raccoons at Myrtle Beach State Park, and hearing like rustling in the middle of the night and opening the tent and shining the flashlight out and just seeing
the glowing eyes.
Just eyes everywhere in the woods. Just like 50 different pairs of eyes. And it's just, there's so many raccoons in a lot of these campsites. So you really have to keep your stuff secured.
Yeah, for sure. At least you don't have to worry about bears.
Yeah.
But actually, oh no, that was Santee. That we didn't see a bear, but the one guy, the park ranger, came by and was like, "Hey, did you guys have any issues?" And he showed us that video of the bear, and we were like, "Oh." Yeah, which was wild because I was like, I didn't think that we had bears this far down here, but that was on our way. So we like kind of dropped our stuff down, and while we were waiting for my parents, we we're excited to take the girls out on the beach and walk down to the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we were doing, because the previous time that we went, we realized just kind of sitting out on the beach after sunset and, after the last light, that the stars, because there's not a whole lot of light pollution out at Hunting Island, the stargazing is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's one of the best places I've found down here, at least, to do like stargazing or nighttime photography. The only real light pollution you have would be more on I guess it would be the north side of the island, which would have Beaufort and like neighboring St. Helena Island. You get a little bit of light pollution from them, but once you get down to the other side of the island, there's, like we said, Hunting Island is very undeveloped. There's nothing there other than a campground, so there's virtually no light pollution on the island. And
Yeah.
so the stars at night are incredible. And both times that we've gone and camped there, we've done nighttime photography, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And we've talked about stargazing before, like when we talked about our Moab episode, and I talked about how like Arches National Park is like a certified dark sky park, and like the stargazing out there is just awesome, and like the sky is so bright because of all the stars that you can see. I would say this is a close match to that, like as close as you can get without being like, certified dark sky or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the Milky Way just from like sitting on the beach with your naked eye, and you can see it better with like a camera. We did try to see any like auroras, and that was the weekend after there was that big like geomagnetic storm where everybody was seeing the auroras down south.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't end up seeing any. I'm pretty sure we didn't. There was a couple pictures that I took that looked like they had some greens in them, but I think it might have just been like
right.
some of the lighting. I don't think we were actually seeing auroras, but
we hiked the beach from the campground and our campsite down to the lighthouse, which was probably a mile.
Yeah, maybe a little more.
Maybe a little more, and had to go over the jetties and everything. And we had the girls with us, and they both did really well, going all the way down there. And yeah, the stars were just amazing. But once we got down to the lighthouse and we walked up to it, just the lighthouse with the backdrop of the sky behind it was amazing. And we got some really good photos of that, and which we'll post, and anybody that follows us already on social media has seen those pictures. And
I posted like a million of my iPhone astro photography pictures.
Yeah, I was really happy with the way those photos turned out. And last time we were camping at Hunting Island, the lighthouse they were doing renovations on it, doing construction on it, so they had scaffolding all over it.
Yeah,
with high fences around it. This time the lighthouse is still closed. They're still doing work on it, but the scaffolding was all gone. So you could, at least take cool pictures of the lighthouse itself.
Yeah. And so the lighthouse, they're not open yet. If you can climb it, I think it's 197 steps. That's also something you can find on their website. But they put out kind of like a press release that had a little bit of history on it. So this is from the Hunting Island State Park website. There's a page on the lighthouse and like a press release. So it says it was originally constructed in 1859. It was rebuilt in 1875 after being destroyed during the Civil War. And a unique feature about the construction of this lighthouse is that it was made with interchangeable cast iron sections. So it can be easily dismantled. Well, I don't know, easily is the right word, but it can be dismantled and allow it to move if necessary. And they did have to do this due to severe beach erosion, and it was relocated about 1.3 miles inland in 1889. And the construction that they're doing right now is part of a $3 million renovation project. So they're just trying to preserve the lighthouse. A lot of the work includes repairs to the lantern room, the windows, the decks, and the rails. And they're installing new large braces designed in a style that's consistent with the historic cast iron to support the stairs. So They say that the timeline for this is expected to extend through late 2025. And so we were there in November of 2025. The lighthouse, you're able to like walk on the grounds and get kind of up close to it. There's still a fence around it, so you can't get to the door, but you can see the steps in the door to enter, but you can't climb it yet. So hopefully by early to mid 2026, you'll be able to actually climb the lighthouse again.
Yeah, and I have climbed that lighthouse a number of summers ago when it was open, and the Hunting Island Lighthouse is the tallest lighthouse that's open to the public currently that you can. I mean, it's closed right now because of construction, but normally it's open to the public. The Morris Island Lighthouse, which we talked about earlier off the coast of Folly, is the tallest lighthouse in South Carolina, but that one's obviously not open to the public.
Yeah.
We've also done the Harbortown Lighthouse at Hilton Head. That one's much smaller. A really cool lighthouse. It's like a museum inside. There's all kinds of stuff to see inside the lighthouse. There's a gift shop. The Hunting Island Lighthouse isn't really that. I think there is like a little gift shop at the bottom, but up through the lighthouse, you're just walking upstairs, spiral stairs all the way up.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool thing to go see and to go explore. And like I said, at night, it's really awesome. And the way the lighthouse kind of sits behind the trees, you can also get some really cool shots of the palms and all the forest and everything with the lighthouse inside.
Yeah, I got some cool like framing compositions, like framing like the branches around it, and then kind of like positioning like the top of the lighthouse within. We'll put some of those pictures online too. Yeah, it's just a very photogenic lighthouse.
Yeah, it's purty.
It is purty, and the light still shines too, which is cool. I took some time lapses. Oh, I left the GoPro.
Yeah.
To do that time lapse. Oh, y'all, I took this risk. Oh my gosh. It was like a do it for the Vine moment. Not Vine, but you got it.
Was that the first night you did that?
That was the
when we went down there?
No.
That was the second night.
That was the second night because we left it there and then went to dinner and then came back, and I was like getting really antsy. Y'all were like sitting by the fire, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. Try to see if this thing is still there. So because last time we had the GoPro and I was playing around with the Star Trails feature or mode on it, where it will take like a time lapse, and then so you'll get a photo that has like the Star Trails of the path that they took, and then you'll also get a time lapse, and it's just so cool of like the sky moving, and you see the stars and stuff. So I wanted to do that, but last time I only had like the GoPro batteries, and they die quick. So we got one of those. It's like the car jumper things, but they're also a like portable battery, and so it has a lot of juice. So I brought that and I hooked that baby up to the GoPro, so it was just continuous juice energy.
Yeah, so it wouldn't die, but it also to do that feature, it takes a long time, and you only you can let it sit for an hour and it still only gives you like 5 seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
So we needed it to sit for a long time.
Yeah, which is why I was like, I'm gonna leave it here. And I looked around and I was like, we came up here. We're the only people that we've seen here at this time. It's also really dark, so it's not like if anybody did come up here, I kind of tried to put it sort of in an obscure spot. Not really. I mean, if you had a flashlight, you would have been able to find it. But so took a chance and came back, and it was there. And I remember I was talking to you guys. I was like, was it irresponsible? Yeah, we could have lost the GoPro, and that would be the second one that I've lost.
Yeah. At the beach. At a beach.
At a beach, yeah. I don't know how the first one happened, honestly. I really don't. Because I didn't leave it anywhere on purpose. I must have fallen out of my pocket or something.
We won't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a sore subject.
It was Jared's GoPro. It was like the ghost white.
Yeah.
Special edition one.
It was special edition.
I'm really sorry about it.
But I got a new one out of it because you felt bad.
Yeah, I used work points to get like the like recognition points or whatever. So I was like, hey, they've got this GoPro. So I was like, look, you went from a GoPro Hero 7 to now the 12 or whatever.
Yeah. But how long? So we were at dinner for we probably left the GoPro in total, what, 3 or 4 hours? It was a long time.
Yeah.
And how long was the video that it took?
30 seconds.
So that just goes to show you that, that setting to get that footage, you need to let it sit for a long time.
Yeah. And that's like the footage that I wanted of like it, it's standing still and it just looks like the sky, like you can just see the earth churning. And I just think those videos are so, so cool.
With in the foreground of the lighthouse, which was the whole point of it. Yeah. Was to get the lighthouse with the stars behind it kind of moving beyond it.
Yeah.
So really cool video. You did post that too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll repost that with this episode when it drops. But yeah, really cool cool experience.
And I remember walking up there being like, was it irresponsible? Yeah, probably. And I was like, but what if we get there and like the GoPro and the battery pack is still there? And what if the footage is sick? And it was sick.
Yeah. Yeah, we got back from dinner and we got to the campsite and it was like, all right, let's huff it.
Yeah.
Let's huff it to the lighthouse.
Yeah. I was like aggressively optimistic.
And that's another thing is your mom and dad brought the golf cart.
Yeah.
Which we were able to kind of cruise around on the beach with, even though we weren't 100% sure we were allowed to. And your dad and Harper got in trouble.
Yep, they did.
By a state park ranger for...
They were mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know. There are certain sections of the beach that you can drive a golf cart on, and there are signs. So, like, right by the campground, if you're coming out on the beach to the furthest entrance to the beach, I forget what, port, whatever it's called. But the furthest one, when you come out to the left, it's like a national, like, shorebird protected site. So you can't even bring dogs out that way. It's literally, you can only walk. You can't bring dogs. You can't bring bikes. You definitely can't bring a golf cart. But if you go down to the right, you can have the golf cart out there. Or so that's what it said online. But it kind of seemed like they were saying you couldn't have a golf cart out there at all unless you had a handicap permit. And that was only to get out to the beach and like park it there and get your stuff out.
Right.
And
we were just kind of cruising around on it.
Yeah. But it was also, it was fun to drive around the campground too. Mm-hmm. It's a little gas powered golf cart. And we saw deer there too. We've seen deer there every time. There's like this little patch of woods kind of between the campground and the dunes and the beach. And they kind of hang out in there all the time. We've seen 5, 6 more in the little dune area, just kind of feeding and grazing. And last time, Harper and I, we were walking back and it was just her and I. And no, I think we were walking to the lighthouse because we left before you. And it was just her and I. And we were kind of on the road and I look over and there is just a fawn laying down, like, bedded down. And I was like, oh, that is so cute. And he was kind of looking at us, but I was like, let's make sure that we don't want to spook it. So we moved away. We were like, Mom's definitely coming back for baby. So
yeah. Yeah. In general, the wildlife there is, if you're somebody that enjoys wildlife or like wildlife photography, the birds, the deer, the raccoons even. There's all kinds of wildlife there. Alligators, snakes. So it's a really, really wild place.
Herons. They saw a bunch of like the white ibises. I saw a bald eagle.
Yeah, we did see a bald
eagle.
Like
clockwork. Too. Like around 9 o'clock in the morning, just hanging out at the campsite. I look up and I'm like, oh, that bird has a white head. And it's like, oh, it's a bald eagle.
Oh my God. And then you heard Kid Rock playing in the background.
Yeah. Dude, there was nothing like floating down the river on 4th of July and seeing a bald eagle. This is like off topic, but I was like, that is the most America I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, just to and then to mention, like we said earlier, there's really no development on the island. There's no restaurants, no shopping centers other than the little, guard shack or whatever. But um, we did go eat the one night, so we went off the island onto neighboring St. Helena, and we went to the Foolish Frog. So
Yeah.
it was really good. I've been there before. It's again one of the few places in the area to really eat. There's some Gullah restaurants
Yeah.
on St. Helena, but the Foolish Frog was something that I think was better for the large group we had.
Yeah.
And so shout out to the Foolish Frog.
Yeah, that was recommended to me by someone that I work with and a friend. Her family is actually from like the Beaufort area. So when I told her just in kind of in passing, like, oh, we're heading down to Hunting Island to go camping this weekend, she was like, oh my gosh, those are my stomping grounds. That's my neck of the woods. She was like, you got to go here, or whatever. And she sent me the Foolish Frog. So I was like, yeah, okay. Because we kind of planned on, we brought a lot of food down to cook and stuff while we were at the campsite, but we kind of planned for like one meal for us to eat out, and we did that. And she recommended like it's like the firecracker okra or something like that. The okra was really good, but also we got an appetizer that was the grouper cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
Those were so good.
Grouper cheeks.
Yes.
Yeah, we clapped them.
They were good though.
Imagine if it wasn't grouper and it was bass. They were bass
the bass cheeks.
But
gosh.
To go back for a second, speaking of deer, you see, like we said, we always see deer there on Hunting Island. There's a lot of deer in the area. There's another bordering barrier island called Fripp Island that's right next door that is known for its deer. It has domesticated deer just walking around everywhere, and so you can go out there and see the deer. I think you can feed them and pet them. They just walk right up to your car.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of interesting thing.
Do you have to? I thought we tried to go to Fripp Island and it's a private island.
It is a private island, and you need to live there to like go into the community, but you can go to the island.
Oh, and just kind of like outside
drive
the
around.
gate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been there. I have a picture of me in a vehicle with a deer like standing right next to me. That was at Fripp Island.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the hiking that we did. Not really. I mean, we talked about like the Boneyard Beach, but to hike out there, the first time that we went, we wanted to hike to, there's like a lagoon trail or something like that. Yeah, the Lagoon Access Recreation Trail. And what we wanted to do, it was because we wanted to make it there for the feeding frenzy, and we thought, oh, we'll just walk from the campsite, walk along the beach, catch a trail, and one of the trails goes to the nature center. So we'll just do that. And I think we didn't realize how long it was going to be and how much of a hike it was going to be because we were so sore.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being like, ooh, that was a little much. But yeah, so I think we did the Maritime Forest Trail, which you looked up, and then the Lagoon Access Recreation Trail because we wanted to do some bird watching. But lots of really good hiking around the island too. I mean, there's all kinds of trails from like the small trails, like the Boardwalk Marsh Trail isn't very long. It's like probably less than a mile, maybe a little bit more round trip. But and then there's other ones that are quite long. And yeah, we really enjoyed the hiking there.
Yeah, it was the trails there go all over the island, and so you can be hiking through the jungle, through the Maritime Forest at one point, and then it'll take you out onto the beach or to, an inlet or a lagoon, and you're hiking through like swampland, and then, it's very diverse, and like I said, there's a lot of wildlife to see. So the hiking trails there are really cool. And I think it was the Lagoon Access Trail is where I actually saw a couple of shark poachers before. As we were kind of hiking in towards the water, because it kind of goes out into towards the coastline there. You hike out, and as I was hiking out to it, there were some guys coming in who had nets, and they actually had like sharks over their shoulder walking in, and it was out of season at the time, and they kind of looked at me like they were kind of, they were they didn't want to be seen. And so, um, yeah, that
Yeah.
happens down there, Again, there's not a lot of people around. It's a pretty unpopulated
Yeah.
area. And so people do poach there also.
Yeah. That's irritating.
Yeah.
On the opposite side, though, Jared nursed a butterfly back to health.
I did. I saved the life of a butterfly.
There was so many So this was November, and there were just so many butterflies everywhere. It was also, the weather was really nice. We thought it was going to be cold. The first time that we camped there, it was also in November of 2024. And it was so cold. I remember like waking up in the middle of the night and just being so cold. And my parents had they like sort of converted a enclosed trailer. Not really converted, but they were sleeping in the enclosed trailer, and they have a little heater in there, and they're like, "Oh, we were so warm last night." And I
Not
was
just
like,
a heater. They have one of those little electric fireplaces.
Yeah.
It looks like a little fireplace with logs.
Yep. But it puts out some heat. And so like they were like, "Oh man, we were like sweaty in there." And we're like, "Oh, it must be nice," because I was freezing. And that's why bringing the girls this time, I was like, so I went out and got everybody new coats, and I got them gloves, and we got wool socks and hats and stuff. I was like, nobody's going to be cold on this trip.
And we ended up not needing almost any of that.
Well, yeah, I did end up using I got the hand warmers and like the foot warmers. I did end up using those walking out to the lighthouse, and they did use their gloves and their hats. So I don't want to hear it.
But anyway, we were around the campsite, and Hadley, my youngest daughter, saw a butterfly laying on the ground, and she's like, "Dad, look at this butterfly." And he, you could tell he was injured, and he was just like trying to flap his wings, but he was just kind of laying there.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it. I figured this butterfly was going to die, but just to like make her feel better, I was like, okay, like we'll try to help him, And she was like, maybe he just needs a drink. Maybe he needs some water. And, I thought, what a silly, kids, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I was like, okay, so we put a little bit of water in like a bottle cap, and we sat there and fed this butterfly, or,
Yeah, we watched it take a drink.
Yeah, we watched it drink. I held it in my hand and it drank from the bottle cap. And again, I thought, this isn't going to do anything. This butterfly's probably got stepped on or whatever, it's going to die. And all of a sudden, after doing this for, 10, 15 minutes or whatever, the butterfly flaps its wings and flies away. And it was like the most incredible thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
I was like, I nursed a butterfly back to health. I saved its life. I was so proud of myself. And then we piled onto the golf cart, and we were going to go to the beach. So we're going down out of our campsite towards the beach. And all of a sudden, I would like to think it's the same butterfly. It looked like the same butterfly was following us all the way to the beach, like saying thank you.
To say like, thanks. Yeah.
That was a pretty cool moment, pretty cool experience.
Yeah, that was cool. It was like a little, your Disney princess moment.
Yeah, right.
But then after that, we went out on the beach, and we took some kites that I think they got at the camp store. So they also sell kites.
Yeah, they were, what are they called?
Stunt kites.
Stunt kites.
So they had 2 strings, and they're shaped like a fighter jet. And
they seem like it too.
Yeah. Dude, some of them, because like you'll pull one side and they'll just start going in like, a torpedo circle.
Super fast.
Super fast, yeah.
And then they dive bomb the ground.
Yes.
And we were doing them, and there was other people on the beach, and there was this poor woman who was like an older woman sitting, just trying to enjoy the relaxing, calm ocean in front of her, and just like sitting there. And we were out there with these kites, dude. And this kite started spinning and then came down right next to her, like right behind her, and just thrashed into the beach. And
she like jumped and turned around.
Yeah. And then she walked away. She was like, I'm getting out of here.
It took her a minute though. She didn't immediately get up, but then she was like, all right. Because we were trying our best. And there's like other people with just like normal kites, just like sitting there, and they've got them tied to chairs, and they're just up there flying, and we can't get these things to stay up there to save our lives.
No, they don't stay up in the air very long, but they do cool stuff.
Yeah.
And a couple of times I almost got my head taken off, and
yeah,
they were fun. It was fun doing the kites, but also like dodging them for your life.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. We were having so much fun screaming and laughing, and It was a hoot, but then they ended up getting so tangled up that like I spent 30 minutes trying to detangle the one that you got all crazy, and then Harper immediately got the other one all crazy, and they were both just insane. And I
And then
was
we just
like,
kind of stopped.
yeah, I was like, all right, we got to bring this in because like the sun, we were gonna do something for sunset. That's when we went to the lighthouse for sunset. I
Yeah.
left the GoPro there, and then we went out to dinner.
Yeah. Man, good
Yeah.
times. Hunting Island is a whole vibe. And if you're ever in the South Carolina area or you're down in the Lowcountry or on the coast and you want somewhere to camp or even visit, just to go hike for a few hours, if you're down that way, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, can't recommend it enough. We've gone twice in 2 years, and we kind of want to make it like a recurring thing. I know Harper was like, "I want to go again next year," and she was really having a good time. Despite we didn't even mention this, the first night she had food poisoning, so she was like in the tent throwing up. And she was such a trooper because even though she didn't feel good and was literally throwing up, the next day when she started feeling better, she was like, so ready to go and do things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess to kind of wrap us up, overall, make sure that you're prepared for hikes that you're going on. Look up the areas that you're gonna be going to and any weather, to make sure that you are fully prepared and layer. Don't go to Morgan Island. Don't set foot on Morgan Island because you might encounter a diseased monkey.
Yeah, don't go to Monkey Island.
And yeah, visit Hunting Island. It's a mostly undeveloped sanctuary full of nature, wonder, and adventure.
That's right. And if you don't have a budget for Vietnam and you're filming a movie, you can just use the state park.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
All right.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can find Temporary Locals on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. We also have an Instagram where we will post pictures and things that go along with each episode and do some promotions and things like that. You can find Jared on Instagram and YouTube at Rover Stover, and I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook at Mego Goes Global. If you guys would please, if you haven't already, like the episode, share, comment, really helps us out, all the engagement we can get. And with that,
I'm Jared.
and I'm Megan. Thanks for exploring with us.
And remember, be a
Be
local
anywhere you go.
Bye.